Whatever job you're applying for, whatever company you're applying for, you are going to need a CV. And this, unfortunately, isn't going to change with whatever stage you are in your career. Each CV has to be custom written for the job and for the company. Unfortunately, one size doesn't fit all here, but you can have a basis of a CV and you can put the relevant bits in and out. So in this section, we're going to have a look at the length of the CV, how to order it, the kind of stuff that you put in there, and kind of other things around the CV that happen in today's world. So short and sweet is basically the answer. If you're applying for an academic role, the answer's different. Academic CVs are very long. Industry CVs are quite short. 2 sides of A4 maximum. If you're applying to a startup, it's 1 side of A4, which is not a huge amount of space to get the information in, but it is all doable. Things that really don't do, put silly fonts on there, make it like size font 6 with such dense text that no one can read it. Make it look visually appealing as well. So have a margin around the outside, break up the sections. The idea is you're making it easy for the person to read and to see how great you are, rather than going, oh, I need a magnifying glass for this. In the UK, photos are not required on your CV. This is different if you work in Europe or in the States. They have different regulations there. Regulations, that's rather a harsh word. Norms there. But in the UK, we don't tend to put photographs of ourselves on our CV. So the idea of this is it's giving the person that's reading your application form a very concise introduction to yourself, what your skills are and what you can do. So the ordering isn't really important, but the idea is to put the key points first. The idea that you do this is you sell yourself at the top of your CV, put your best, most relevant bits for the job there, so they read them first. You want to immediately say that you are somebody that they want to employ, and tell the people what they want to know is the best way to do that. You can have a little summary above, underneath your name and your main details. You can have a little paragraph summary about the kind of things that you can do. Again, make sure it's relevant for the job. You see a lot of information here on CVs say about people's extracurricular activities, and they write about the sailing they've done, the karate tournaments that they've won. It's nice, but it isn't actually relevant to the person as an employer. Pick out the bits that are really relevant to the job you're applying to. So if you are an avid sailor, talk about the antennas that you use on the boat for all the different safety systems you have there. You do need to include your education and your work experience. It doesn't need to be in the same detail as your application form, so you don't need to go down to module level, and overall is standard. For kind of different levels of job that you're applying to in your life require different levels of education. So at the beginning, you might well put your GCSEs and your A-levels down. By the time you get to applying to your second and third job, you normally just put your degrees down, because that is kind of the more relevant point. So you don't need to worry about putting your Key Stage 3 results or anything down. Don't go beyond the GCSE results at this point. You need to tailor each CV for the application. Unfortunately, one CV doesn't fit all. Make sure that on the first page, a person reading it can see that you cover the requirements for the job. So those are the key points that you need to get in alongside your education details and any explanation of the projects and the extra stuff that you've done, again, in a technical term. So what I do for this is I have kind of standard bits written out. So I have like a CV based for more the systems end of the work that I do. I have a batch of CVs written for the antenna end, the data science stuff. And I have like basically a master CV of several pages with the key bits written in, and I will take the bits right. So this is a job specifically for this. So I pull out the relevant sections and put them in and then check it makes sense as a whole. So you don't have to rewrite your CV every time. Keep it in the bank so you can use it again in the future if you need to do. But make sure on that very first page, every requirement for that job you're applying for is ticked off in your CV. References. The standard answer to this is references available on request. It takes up one line. You don't need to worry about putting your actual name and address of your references on there. It's not expected. I think this must be something that career services tell people to do, because you see it basically on most of the applications for the graduate schemes and the apprenticeships and the years in industry. You just don't need to do it. Save the space for something that's really relevant. We're coming back to the read carefully again. This time, read your CV carefully. Check that it's coherent. Check that it matches the details that you've put into your application form. Make sure there's no mistyped dates or information in there. Just make sure you're presenting a coherent front where they don't read this and go, oh, well, these things don't match up. So alongside the CV, as we live in the world of social media, it's worth keeping an eye on things like LinkedIn. I'm just going to quickly talk about other social media first. Check the settings on your accounts. For a lot of companies, it's standard practice to see what the person's profile is on the internet. So if you open up an incognito tab and Google your name, you will see what comes up for you there. Make sure your settings on things like your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever accounts you have, make sure that they are correct for your job applications. So make sure that what the information that can be seen, you're happy for a prospective employer to see. Now, if you want to keep your profile totally open, change it back afterwards, that's fine. But for the time where you're applying for applications, make sure if someone Googles you, what they see, you're happy with them seeing. So LinkedIn is kind of a special case. This is where a lot of business is done now. It is a key to have a good LinkedIn profile. It is more than likely that when you're applying for a job, someone will look at your profile on LinkedIn. And this is actually to your advantage because you've got a lot more information in there. You can include details of the projects that you've done, show off your technical work in a much longer format than you can do on your application form or on your CV. You can have speaker reels on there. You can have pinned posts. You can, show all this wealth of stuff that you're doing around the area that you're working in. You've been to a relevant networking session, pop that on there. That's all a good place for people to see that you're serious about the world that you're going into. So set up your LinkedIn account. Look at other people's LinkedIn accounts to make sure that it is kind of in line with what people put on there. And you can do things like comment on posts and this kind of thing to raise your profile there. The other little thing you can do is you can actually put an open for work banner on your LinkedIn profile now. And this might mean that people actually come to you with job offers. I have got an open for work on my LinkedIn, but I don't have it on as a banner because I work as a consultant, so I work with a lot of different companies. So if someone is using a recruiter to get a specific piece of work done, it may well be something I can do. So I have it open on my LinkedIn that recruiters know that I'm looking for work. And I do get a lot of contacts through that. So it's worth having a look at that. So for this section, keep your CV short, 2 sides for a large company, 1 side for startup. Key points at the beginning, you can take everything off on your job profile on that first page. It's a summary. You can't put a huge amount of detail in there, but what you put on there, make sure it's relevant to the job that you're applying to. And again, you can have that master list of all the different stuff that you've written for your CV, and you can start a CV for a new job application by picking the relevant bits from there. Read it through, check it all makes sense, and just have a think about social media accounts and make sure your presence on LinkedIn is good. Okay, when you're ready, move on to the next section where we're having a look at covering letters.